There is a slide. Every data engineering deck has this slide. Three boxes, left to right, bronze, silver, gold. Clean arrows between them, maybe a little medal icon too if the designer was feeling cute. And every single time I see that slide in a kickoff meeting, I have the same thought. Does anyone in this room actually need this? Or did we just default to it because it's what the conference talks told us to build?
Here we go. Karan has a complicated relationship with Medallion architecture.
I would rather say I have a relationship with reality. I've built it when it was exactly right. And I've watched teams build it when it was the most expensive way to solve a problem that didn't need solving. Both of those things are true. That's the episode.
Exactly. And that is why we need to talk about it properly. Because Medallion architecture has become the default answer in modern data platforms. Databricks recommends it. Also, Microsoft Fabric recommends it as the default pattern for One Lake. When something becomes the default, people stop asking if it's the right answer. They just build it. Welcome to Discovery to Solutions, where we bring technology conversations from the whiteboard to reality. I'm Kavya Malhotra.
And I'm Karan Khanna. Today we're doing something a little different. We're not picking apart two vendors. We're picking apart a pattern. The Medallion architecture. Bronze, silver, gold. Is it the foundation every serious data platform needs? Or is it the most over applied architecture decision in data engineering right now?
Let me give you a spoiler. It's genuinely both, depending on who's asking. And by the end of this, you'll know exactly which side of that line your organization is on.
So let's do the 30-second version for anyone who needs it. Bronze is raw. Data lands exactly as it came from the source. No transformation, no cleanup. It's your immutable record of truth. Silver is cleaned, deduplicated, validated, conformed to a schema everyone agrees on. Gold is business ready, aggregated, modeled, built specifically for the reports and dashboards people actually consume. Databricks popularized it around 2019, 2020 as part of the lake house pattern. It's not a product, it's a logical pattern. You can build it on Databricks, Fabric, Snowflake, whatever.
And the reason it caught on is simple. Before Medallion became standard, most pipelines were doing transformation in flight, straight from source to destination. Which meant if your transformation logic had a bug, you'd lost the original data. No way to replay it, no way to audit it. Medallion fixed that by forcing you to keep raw data untouched, separate from clean data, separate from business logic. Separation of concerns, that's the entire idea. So let's start with where this earns its place, because it absolutely does, in the right context. First, large scale multi source environments. If you're ingesting from a dozen different systems, CRM, ERP, clickstream, third party API, each with different schemas, different update frequencies, different quality levels, you need a layer that just captures everything as is before anyone touches it. That's bronze. It's your insurance policy. When something breaks downstream, and something always breaks downstream, you go back to bronze and replay it.
Second scenario, multiple teams sharing the same data estate. The moment you have more than one team building on the same data, you need a shared contract. Engineering owns bronze to silver. Analytics engineers own silver to gold. Business users consume gold. That ownership boundary is genuinely valuable. When a number on a dashboard looks wrong, you know exactly where to look first. Without that boundary, debugging becomes what one architect I read called archaeology, which is the right word. You're digging through artifacts trying to reconstruct what happened.
Third, and this is increasingly relevant, regulated industries and anything feeding AI or ML downstream. In healthcare, for instance, you keep raw EHR, and claims data in bronze for audit and lineage. You standardize and de identify in silver, and you publish only the curated access control datasets in gold. That's not optional in a regulated environment. That's the architecture doing real governance work. And if your gold layer is feeding a feature store for ML models, you need that same lineage. When a model misbehaves, you need to trace the bad input back to its source. Medallion gives you that path for free if you build it properly.
So, large data estates, multiple teams, regulatory or AI lineage requirements. In those conditions, Medallion isn't just useful, it's close to mandatory. I will defend it loudly in that context. Now, here's where it gets difficult. Because most of the Medallion implementations I've walked into were not built for any of those three conditions. They were built because someone watched a Databricks conference talk and decided that's just how modern data platforms look.
Here, I would like you to give me a real example, not a generic complaint.
Sure, I had a client, small retail business, one source system, a POS platform, sales, inventory, basic customer data. That's it. Their use case, a handful of dashboards for store managers, daily sales, stock levels, simple trend lines. Their previous vendor had built them a full medallion architecture: bronze, silver, gold, three separate schemas, scheduled jobs moving data between each layer, for one source system and four dashboards.
In my opinion, that's not architecture, that's ceremony.
Exactly. And here's the cost of that ceremony: three times the storage for the same data, copied at every layer, three sets of jobs to maintain, monitor, and debug instead of one. And when something broke, which it did regularly, there were three places to check instead of one. They were paying for the operational overhead of an enterprise data platform to run what should have been a single, well modeled table feeding Power BI directly.
So the test isn't is medallion good or bad? The test is, does your environment actually have the complexity that medallion is designed to solve? One source, simple structure, a handful of known reports. You probably don't need three layers. You need one well designed table, maybe a thin staging step before it, and you're done. Duplicating that into three schemas doesn't make the data more correct. It just makes it slower to deliver and more expensive to maintain.
And there's a deeper problem underneath this. A lot of teams adopt patterns without first asking what problem they're actually solving. Medallion is a solution to schema evolution, multi team governance, and lineage requirements at scale. If you don't have those problems, implementing Medallion is solving a problem you don't have at a cost you didn't need to pay.
All right, and let's get into the mistakes. Even when medallion is the right call, teams get the execution wrong. First one, Karan, this is your favorite to complain about.
The vault layer, or the staging before bronze layer, or the platinum layer on top of gold. I've seen 5 layer medallion architectures. 5. Raw, bronze, silver, gold, platinum. Nobody can tell you what's different between raw and bronze. Nobody can explain why platinum exists instead of just a better gold table.
This usually happens for one of two reasons. Either nobody made a clear decision about what each layer is for, so people just add a new layer every time they're unsure where something belongs, or it's resume driven architecture. Someone wants to show they've implemented an advanced pattern.
And the cost compounds with every layer you add. More schemas to maintain, more jobs that can fail, more places where a number can quietly drift from what it should be. The goal of a layer is to represent a meaningfully different state of trust or transformation in your data. If you can't explain in one sentence what makes your new layer different from the one below it, you don't need the layer. 3 layers, maybe 4. if you have a very specific reason. That's it.
Second mistake, and this one is organizational, not technical. Unclear ownership. This is the failure mode I see most often in larger enterprises. Data engineering owns bronze, some other team owns silver, analytics owns gold. Sounds clean on a slide.
And then a number on a dashboard is wrong, and nobody knows who's responsible for finding out why.
Exactly. Without explicit ownership and lineage tooling, debugging becomes guesswork. Someone changes transformation logic in silver. Gold quietly diverges from what it used to show. A schema changes upstream in bronze. Nobody notices until a report breaks 3 weeks later. I've sat in calls where 4 different teams are on a bridge call trying to figure out whose layer broke. That's not a data problem. That's an org design problem, wearing a data architecture costume.
The fix is unglamorous, but it works. Make ownership explicit and visible, not implied, written down. Who owns the contract between bronze and silver? Who gets paged when it breaks? And invest in lineage tooling from day one. Unity Catalog, Purview, whatever your platform gives you. Lineage isn't a nice to have. Without it, every incident turns into archaeology. Third mistake, and this is the one that quietly destroys the entire architecture from the inside. No data quality checks at bronze.
Walk through why that matters. Bronze is supposed to be raw, untouched. Isn't that the point?
Raw, yes. Untouched in terms of transformation, yes. But raw doesn't mean unchecked. If a source system starts sending malformed records, wrong data types, missing required fields, a schema change nobody flagged, and you load that straight into bronze with zero validation, you've just let corruption into the foundation of your entire platform. And because everyone assumes bronze is just raw data, nobody's watching for it.
And then it propagates. Silver inherits the corruption and tries to clean around it, sometimes incorrectly. Gold inherits whatever silver produced. By the time someone notices the dashboard numbers look wrong, you're not debugging one broken table. You're debugging 3 layers of inherited assumptions.
The fix: structural validation at ingestion. Type checks, required field checks, schema drift alerts. At the moment data lands in bronze, you're not transforming the data. You're just making sure you know the moment something looks wrong. Quality gates belong at every transition: ingestion, bronze to silver, and continuous monitoring in gold. Not just at the end. If you only check quality at gold, you find out about the problem after it's already cost you 3 layers of rework.
So, if a client comes to us mid implementation or right at the start, what would we actually tell them to do differently? Karan, you start.
First, don't start with the architecture. Start with the question: how many source systems do you actually have? How many teams need to build on this data independently? Do you have a regulatory or audit requirement that demands raw data preservation? If the honest answers are one source, one team, no regulatory driver, you probably don't need Medallion. Build a clean, well modeled single layer. Add complexity only when a real requirement forces it.
My addition: if you do need Medallion, treat gold as a product, not a dumping ground. Every gold table should have an owner, a defined SLA, and clear documentation of what it represents. Don't let teams spin up one off gold tables for every report request. That's how you end up with metric drift: 5 tables that all claim to calculate monthly active users slightly differently. Use shared semantic models, governed metrics, one definition reused everywhere.
And build quality gates into the design from day one, not as an afterthought. Structural checks at bronze, business rule validation at silver, continuous anomaly monitoring in gold. I'd also say decide upfront whether any of your data needs near real time delivery. Multi hop medallion is fundamentally a batch oriented pattern. Each hop adds latency. If a part of your business needs sub minute decisions, you either need a streaming path that bypasses some of those hops, or you accept that Medallion isn't the right model for that specific use case, even if it's right for everything else.
The pattern is genuinely good. We're not arguing against Medallion. We're arguing against the unconscious adoption of it. Build it because your complexity demands it, not because a slide deck told you it's what modern platforms look like.
So, overhyped or essential? Both, just not for the same organization.
If you've got multiple sources, multiple teams, and real governance or AI lineage requirements, Medallion will save you more than it cost you. If you've got one source and four dashboards, it's the most expensive way to build something simple. Know which one you are before you build.
If you're not sure which one you are, that's exactly the kind of conversation worth having before you write a single pipeline. We've untangled more 5 layer medallion architectures than we've built from scratch at this point. Happy to save you that particular education.
Next episode, we're going somewhere every team building with AI right now needs to hear. RAG is not as easy as the demos make it look. If you've sat through a retrieval augmented generation demo and thought, that looks simple enough to build in a sprint, we need to talk.
See you in the next episode.
Thanks for listening to us on Discovery to Solutions.